Hello. I would like to talk about honesty versus transparency and why they are not the same thing. So, I think that nowadays it's pretty typical, general, um, for people to ask for honesty but expect transparency. And I think the reason why people expect transparency is because they are more insecure um, than in past generations, because they're less prepared, let's say, because the times are such that um, people are not, forced through hardship as much to individuate themselves to an independent state of being in order to actually be okay with another person's independence. I mean, you have to, if you really want to get to know somebody else, if you really want that, um, you know, sharing of life, intimacy, you have to be willing to allow that person to have their independence of their individuality, which means, you respect another person's privacy, etc. All the things that go along with that. And so, if you really want um, to actually have a life partner, if that's something that you are after, then you know what you really should expect is honesty. But most people, they expect transparency, and then but they speak that expectation of transparency as if they are expecting honesty, when in reality, no, they just want to know everything about you so that they can be assured that you're not doing anything behind their back, that you're not putting them in any kind of jeopardy. And so that's what I find nowadays, is that people tend to speak a lot about honesty, but what they're really speaking about, they're using the word honesty, but what they're really saying is they want you to be transparent. They don't want there to be parts of you that are hidden from them. And I think this indicates a growing cowardice among human beings in general. Um, Maybe cowardice is, the word is a bit harsh to apply, but I think it's fair. I don't know if it's accurate yet, I haven't determined that, but I think it's fair to call it cowardice, because if you're expecting transparency, um, but you're not coming right out and saying that's what you're expecting, then you're kind of being a coward. I mean, just face facts. So face perceptions, that's what it looks like when somebody looks at you as you are, stressing out, worrying about, you know, somebody else's, um, life in such a personal way, like, you're checking their phone and all that. That looks cowardly. Again, I wouldn't think to, at this point, say that that is cowardly accurately, but I think it's fair to call it cowardice. But yeah, if you want real intimacy, then you have to get over this need for transparency. You have to allow for honesty. Because, if you're expecting transparency all the time, you're not even going to get honesty, part of the time. Because people are not going to be honest with, with that, nighttime helicopter shining the torch, shining the spotlight everywhere the person's going. When that happens, when that nighttime helicopter shines that spotlight, the target evades, and it always evades, and that's what happens in relationships, what I call connectionships, the real kind. Anyway, that's what happens. You keep, trying to figure out the other person in every specific detail. The other person will evade your spotlight. They will maneuver away from your spotlight, and then they will never be themselves with you. Thus, they will never be honest with you. So, if you expect honesty, so let me tell you what honesty is. Okay, honesty is somebody doesn't hold secrets back that concern you. They don't hold secrets away from you that concern you and your connection with them. Got it? Transparency, on the other hand, is when someone, there is no distinction to be made, basically. There's no distinction to be made between the stuff that, that should be told to you, that includes you, and all the other stuff. There's no distinctions. Like, everything is 100% visible. And you might think in your cowardice that, that is right, that is justified, that transparency is a good thing. But I beg to differ. I beg to disagree. No, I don't beg to disagree. I disagree. I differ. Because transparency doesn't allow for a person, your expectation of transparency, if you are expecting transparency, doesn't allow for the object of your expectation to express their character, to find out whether their character is honest or dishonest. So think about that. If you constantly have the spotlight on whoever you're pursuing for a intimate connection, could be, it could be a mere friendship. It doesn't have to be, la vierge, rendezvous bar. It doesn't have to be that. It could just be a friendship. It could just be an acquaintance, a working relationship, what have you, right? But if you want to form an intimacy, if you want to form some sort of a real rapport, where you actually are concerned for the other person and they concerned for you, and you actually regard the other person, vice versa, then it's a really bad mistake to make, to expect transparency, because then you don't allow for their character to come to the forefront. So then you never know if you can or cannot trust them. Therefore, you never trust them. Trust is never established. There's a saying that trust is a bridge. And that's fair. Like, it's, we use trust to get over difficult spaces, difficult divides. We use trust. There's a lack of trust in the world nowadays because there's such a high expectation for transparency. Everybody wants to know everything about everybody else. Well, that's not, correct, but that's like the mainstream, perception. The mainstream perception is that everybody wants to know everything about everybody else. But if you know everything about everybody else, then you don't know anybody. Let me say that again. If you know everything about everybody else, you don't know anybody. Because someone, I should say, is not the mass of information that forms their composite, but someone is who they choose to be. Someone is who they choose to be. And it is who you choose to be that determines your character. And when you expect transparency and you masquerade it like you're expecting honesty, not only are you being dishonest, but for the sake of your cowardice, you are not allowing that other person, whoever it may be, to decide who they want to be. And so you never allow their character to come to the forefront. And that is a mistake. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake on your part. And you know this. But I just wanted to make this video because there are so many people in the world nowadays that add fuel to the fire, to the signal bonfire that suggests in its conflagrating form that honesty is really transparency, that I feel like I have to say something. No, I don't have to, but I will. I will say something about it. Basically, transparency is not the same as honesty. Honesty is good, it's just, it's right. Transparency, that's a desire for transparency is a character mark in the negative for avarice, so for greed. If you want to know everything about somebody else, not allowing for any privacy, not allowing for any partnered independence, if you're not going to allow anybody to have their own sense of control, their own sense of security over their lives, while you're in the course of relating, connecting to them, with them, then you are being greedy. But it's not that you're being greedy for the sake of greed, but you're being greedy because you're afraid. That's really what it is. You're being greedy because you're afraid. You're expecting transparency because you're a coward. Still, again, I don't know right now if that's an accurate thing to say, that you're a coward, and that's why. I think it's fair to say that because that's what the perception offers. But I don't know. You tell me. You tell me if you relate to being the target audience for this message. You tell me if it's cowardly or something else that makes one expect transparency from other people, from the objects of their pursuit, of their relation pursuit, connection pursuit. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah, just wanted to explain the difference between honesty and transparency. Be honest. Have a good day. Peace, meow.